Hey, welcome to a bonus video. This video isn't costing you any more. It is the second video today about Acts chapter 15. We're reading through the book of Acts together. And at the end of chapter 15, there is a very interesting thing that happens. And let's just real quickly put ourselves into the story. Paul and Barnabas uh, went on a missionary journey. And let's just remind ourselves, when no one else, when no one else would accept Paul, Barnabas accepted Paul. Barnabas is the one that introduced Paul to the disciples and said, listen, he really has converted. Barnabas is the one that went to Tarsus when Barnabas showed up in Antioch. He saw a need for a great teacher there. He went to Tarsus. He found Paul, who at that time was called Saul, who it appears from what we know of the story and from what we learn from church tradition, had been really cut off from his family because he had accepted Jesus. So he's sort of become like this outcast. Barnabas goes and gets him and brings him back to Antioch. And then on that first missionary journey, there's sort of a reversal that takes place, a role reversal in which Barnabas, who had been the lead, now becomes the second. And Paul, he's renamed from Saul to Paul, and he's now listed first. He's in a position of authority over Barnabas. And there was a line back in chapter 13, verse 13, that we might have missed. It talked about John Mark going back to Jerusalem fairly early in their very first missionary journey. And so they've had the Jerusalem Council. I've just posted a video about that. You can go watch that video. Is they talked about the subject of whether or not you needed to be circumcised in order to be saved. And at the end of the passage, we find these words. This is Acts chapter 15, verse 36. Sometime later, Paul said to Barnabas, let's go back and visit the brothers in all the towns where we preached the word of the Lord and see how they are doing. And so, okay, let's go on our second missionary journey. Barnabas, the son of encouragement, the one who always sees the best in people. Barnabas wanted to take John, also called Mark, with them. But Paul did not think it wise to take him because he had deserted them in Pamphylia and not continued with them in the work. We didn't see the word deserted back in Acts 13:13. It just said he went back. But apparently, he left them high and dry. Have you ever had someone leave you high and dry? Have you ever had someone disappoint you? Have you ever had someone promise you something and then not come through on it? How do you respond to that person? Well, here's Barnabas with one response. He's like, let's go back and let's give John Mark another chance. And then there's Paul who says, no way, Jose. And listen to what happens next, because we just have this idea sometimes that when God is moving that everything goes smoothly. But listen to what verse 39 says. They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. Paul and Barnabas part company. We don't see any evidence that they ever really reconciled fully after this. They never are on a missionary journey together again. Barnabas took Mark and sailed for Cyprus. So Barnabas heads back to his home region. But Paul chose Silas and left. Commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord, he went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. So, what do you do when someone lets you down? We see two responses, and these responses were so different that it created a split in between two people who really were close. Now, I'm just going to ask you, what are you? Are you a Barnabas? Are you a Paul? Now, the good news is that in the end, the kingdom advanced because of this. I mean, there rather than one set of missionaries going out, there were two. But which one was right? Well, in the end, we discovered which one was right. Because what I want to do is I want to take you to the end of Paul's life. He is sitting in jail. What we know of Paul is that as part of one of the waves of persecution, he was taken outside of Rome and his head was separated from his body. That is how Paul ended his life. He was a martyr. In jail, right before that happened, he writes a letter to Timothy. Timothy is a pastor that we will meet tomorrow in Acts chapter 16. He writes a letter to Timothy and he explains how he has pretty much been abandoned by everybody but Luke, who wrote the book of Luke and wrote the book of Acts. I'm reading from 2 Timothy, and I'm going to read from verse 4 right about verse 9. This is the last letter, the last chapter in the last letter that Paul wrote before his life was ended. It's entitled Personal Remarks. Do your best to come to me quickly, he says to Timothy, for Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia and Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. And then he says this, get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to me in my ministry. Get Mark. At the end of Paul's life, as he's sitting in jail, he calls for the one who had deserted him to come and join him and minister to him as he's in jail when others have deserted him. You know, if someone has let you down, if someone has deserted you, don't give up on them. Look for every opportunity to try to bring them back, to reconcile with them, to become partners with them again. Don't hold hostility against them. Give people second and third and fourth chances. And so I know this is a bonus video and you may have already prayed and reflected on Acts chapter 15, but if you would like, I just want you to think and ask the Lord maybe to speak to you. Is there someone that you've written off that you need to go reconcile with? Wouldn't it be wonderful that at the end of your life, as you look back, that person that right now you see as someone who let you down actually is someone that you're leaning on in your time of need? Wouldn't that be awesome? God does that kinds of things. Thank you for watching the bonus video. You have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow as we introduce ourselves to Timothy.